Hey David, how are you, man?
Good, Russell. How are you?
Doing well. Hey man, thanks for joining me today to talk a little bit about material handling and why it's important to you.
Yeah, it's important because it's one of the most important pieces of equipment we've got, of course, all across the country. We got 7,000 employees. We got 125 buildings. We got 42 million square feet, and it's full of MHE. So it's near and dear to my heart, and look forward to talking through it with you.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I think a lot of times on this topic, we hear a lot from MHE subject matter experts, and we tend to, and I'm one of those. I feel like I'm one of those, but we tend to kind of tell people what we feel like they need to know. But today's conversation really is interesting to me because I want to hear your perspective as a user of MHE equipment. I mean, you just mentioned how many facilities that you have in your 125 facilities. And I mean, you use this every day for your operations, and your employees are in this equipment every day. So I'm looking forward to hearing about some of these topics that typically we tell people they need to know. But today's topic is going to be, or some of the perspective today is going to be like why these topics are important to you as a user.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a little bit. You're the expert, and I learn more from you guys every day, and appreciate the partnership and the value that you guys add. I go back in my mind to one of the first facilities I worked in out in Memphis for 3 years. It had tons of equipment in it. If you can imagine, it was 700,000 square feet, but had 170 pieces of equipment, which is just unbelievable. It had basically every type of equipment that you can have all in one building. And when I look back on it, part of what I realized and have started to learn from you guys, right, is that building we had one brand in that building across every type of equipment. And one of the things I look back on and appreciate now is as you guys have taught me more and more that uh, that's not necessarily the best approach to putting a huge fleet together when you've got this proliferation of equipment types. So I've just appreciated learning about that and learning, make to make, model to model, who makes the best type of equipment and how you get the most productivity out of it and the most reliability out of it over the long term.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. And when you take a step back and look at the macro of it, and I think us just in the MHE industry, a lot of times try to focus in on an individual site or individual deal or even specific need. But really, when you back out and take a 30,000 foot view of your fleet or your network, you want to make sure that you get the right fit for each application. I mean, sometimes MHE can account for 19% of your cost within a supply chain operation. And so that's a big number. Not only is it a big number, but when you're relying on this equipment as a critical part to get your product out the door into the consumer's hands, you don't just want to focus on one micro piece of the puzzle. You want to look at the whole pie in and of itself. Um, so that gets us to really, doesn't matter what kind of brand or what type of MHE do you use in your facility. Does it even matter to you, the brand?
Um, no, brand doesn't matter to me. Obviously, it's going to be about fit and function and uptime and productivity. And I don't need them to match. I don't need to, I'm looking for best value over the long term, which is part of what I've appreciated from our conversations. Um, the database that you guys have built over the decade, as you guys have done more and more, worked with all these different brands and started to understand where they are in their life cycle. I think that's been really powerful. So um, I've trusted, what you guys have been able to bring to bear in terms of looking at every different scenario and where we are and where we need to kind of go forward. It's been pretty impressive and powerful.
Yeah. So I mean, to you, so it doesn't matter what make or model you have. You just need it to do a specific job. You just need to be able to get product out the door into the customer's hands in the safest manner possible for the best price possible.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's the uptime, that's really the most important thing to me. I mean, second to safety, which we look at with all these pieces of equipment, but second to safety, just the productivity and uptime is going to always be number one for us. And I appreciate y'all's the way you've allowed us to improve that over these last many years working together.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I've been in this industry, in the MHE industry, for I guess 18 years now, which it's flown by. But when we were brand specific and working for different OEMs throughout the years, you really did like your focus was on the differentiator between like one brand versus the other. And really, when I came to work for a supply chain organization as a support function, it was really interesting to start looking at like productivity as a primary driver on differentiator and total cost of ownership. And it wasn't just looking at it from a brand, but saying, hey, I'm here to put a piece of equipment in to do a specific job for the best price possible, and not just point out differentiators between one brand or the other. So that was an interesting perspective. Um, when we partnered, when Kenco came up with the fleet services, product offering, I guess, gosh, that's been what, 14 years ago now.
So, I mean, I was in a building last week, and it's a building we're looking at providing service in, but it's run by someone else, we'll say, today, and it's just like so many buildings where it was full of the same, equipment. I'm just curious, like, what's the best way for somebody to, in your opinion, optimize a fleet across different types and profiles? Because like these other buildings, I mean, these are all the same paint color, all the same brand,
Yeah.
but so many different types of equipment. And I guess my two things, Russell. Why does it end up that way? And what's the approach? And maybe why are we able to do it differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think that standardization is important to the extent practical and possible. So it does make sense a lot of times if a particular brand fits the need and the application is the same in that facility or across multiple facilities, then it makes sense for the operators. It's easier to implement like safety procedures and training, because a lot of the functions and features and safety things on the forklift are the same across an operation. Um, and also, too, it allows us to be flexible with the assets from one facility to the other. So if we're looking at it from a network-wide scale and your productivity decreases in one area, or a facility reduces the amount of production lines that they have, or even transfers that productivity to another facility, then we can transfer those assets and the operators can pick right back up on them. So while a brand isn't a driving factor, the standardization is a driving factor, and we found that does help be flexible with productivity needs, whether you go up or down. And the goal is to optimize the fleet so that you've got the right amount of equipment to do the specific job that you need at that location.
Um, I think of another example where one of our clients kind of went outside of us to and I think what they were trying to do, it's a good example. I think what they were trying to do is simply get the lowest cost maybe up front. And this had to do with lithium batteries. And you could maybe you're going to explain it, better than I can about kind of, because you probably know what I'm talking about. But just trying to, they got the cheapest batteries up front, but because they weren't procured all together with the equipment, the way the battery, I'm going to say it in a novice way, the way the battery talked to the forklift and the forklift to the battery, it ended up shortening the lifespan pretty dramatically, and then causing I mean, it was less than half, I think, the expected lifespan is where we ended up there. But I mean, speak to that, I guess, a little bit about,
Yeah,
because when I worked through you guys, we don't have that. That was a client,
yeah.
like I said, and it
Well,
gets into that total cost of ownership, right?
oh, absolutely. Well, if productivity is the primary factor in recommendations, in that in your business, productivity is key. So in our recommendations, productivity is a primary factor in our recommendations. So cost is important. Don't get me wrong, and you guys certainly will keep us in line if costs get too high or out of cost, or out of whack. But yeah, so when you keep productivity as the focus, really inefficiency or downtime is really more costly than the asset cost up front. Because most of the time, there
Hmm.
are some companies that still use capital dollars to purchase equipment, but most of the time it's all leased. And it's negligible, that monthly rate, if you've got an asset that's breaking down all the time, or it's not compatible with your lift trucks, or your operators are having trouble using them, or it doesn't perfectly fit the application. So again, total cost of ownership is super important, and that's one of the service levels that you hold us accountable for. But really, productivity is at the top.
100%. You said it really well. I mean, that's the name of the game. We got to keep the wheels turning. We got to keep everybody moving. The cost of having equipment sit idle is crippling, and it adds up really fast. So, um, yeah, right on. You said it. We've been doing business together for 14 years, um, and uh, so very often we've got major contracts with the fleets coming to the end of a life cycle, right? To the end of their lease cycle. You just mentioned sort of the lease cycle. Um, you guys have been able to do some interesting things for us, at the end of that, at the end of life. And you want to comment on that? Because I've certainly learned from you guys, and appreciate the creativity you've brought into those periods where we need to renew a whole fleet, but we got to look at what to do with the fleets at the end
Yeah.
of their life.
Hey, and I mean, the hot topic right now is automation. So it's not just what we do with those assets when their useful life is over, but what are we replacing them with? And in many cases now, we're starting to look at new technologies like automation or ASRS systems. Um, and so, yeah, and that's something that I think, you know, has become somewhat table stakes, or just normal thinking for fleet services, or Kenco fleet services. And we feel like any proper MHE fleet manager um, should be focused on what's next all the time. And if you don't have a proactive partnership and it's just reactive, then really you're not getting good fleet management or long-term fleet management. And you guys did make that clear. I mean, when we started, and you guys developed just the MHE only product to service our own facilities, you guys made it clear that this is your customers in the 3PL space are demanding that we get more efficient, that we cut costs, that we get innovative, so that we can keep them competitive in their landscape as well. And one of the things, and speaking of this, and just our views on the end of lease and new technologies and everything, David, in your opinion, like vendor management, or when you choose vendors, what kind of criteria do you look for when you choose a vendor in the MHE space? Do you spend a lot of time with it, or should you spend more time on it? Is it becoming more important, or just vendors in general? Um,
Well, I mean,
is
obviously
it
you want to
more
keep it,
strategic?
you want to keep the sourcing pattern as tight as possible. So the fewer vendors you can have in a category, as long as you can keep it competitive, right? You got to make sure you're keeping it competitive. But certainly, if I can have two vendors instead of 10 vendors, we're always going to end up trying to be as tight as we can with that. Um, but all that, it goes back to something we're talking about in terms of what's the depth and breadth of that vendor. How wide can they source? What kind of solutions can they bring? We've recently, Kenco's won like some single source networks, where as the bids were going on, they thought maybe we'll split this network up across two providers, but in the end, they decided to single source it. And it's the same thing for us. If we can single source a solution, that's going to be our strong preference across an entire network, is to go with one provider who can serve us across North America, who can take care of us in all our geographies, who can take care of the breadth of our needs. And you're getting into it just with your comment around automation. And we've been so happy that your team has been able to come in, and we haven't really talked that much about the maintenance side, the guaranteed maintenance side that we do together across all of those pieces of equipment. But now to be able to move that into our automation components as we run forward with Locus and AutoStore and Geek Plus and Gray Orange and all these different elements that are rolling out in Auto. And I mean, it's proliferating quick in terms of automation. But it's all MHE, right? We're all moving the material around, and no, I really appreciate how you guys have stayed, on that curve with us as we've tried to lean into innovation and automation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've kept that. I mean, and that's what I think a good partnership does is we, we've strived to stay aligned with your business goals the whole time, like, and understand, and we want to know what your goals and objectives are for your customers, not just this year, but also 5, 10 years down the road. And also, why do you want that vendor consolidation across your entire network? Because now, and you just said that consumers or customers are looking for their 3PL network. They're consolidating even more in the 3PL network. We want to be that same thing, because we realize that how important it is, especially as you get into this automation, to have like consistent and standardized data coming from one source to your desk or your team's desk so that you can make quick decisions. How much more capacity can we handle from a equipment standpoint at this facility? Or should we be investing in ASRS over here? And then when we do decide to invest in ASRS, can those technicians help us maintain that? Or how much more is it going to be from like an ongoing maintenance standpoint than it was from traditional forklifts? But to your point, man, when I got started in the industry, automation was like a dream. It was like a pipe dream, but it's becoming real, really fast. And it's almost top of mind for everyone that we talk to that, MHE now includes robots. It's not just the traditional
Yeah.
manpower forklifts anymore.
Yeah. Oh man, and there's so many. Just talking to you is just from bringing back like MHE lessons learned, and one of the things you guys did for us early on, right, was really help us set up our leases in the right way, going back to that lease model, because those leases are specific, right, in terms of how many hours you can put on that truck, and that's going to tie back into your shift schedules, and if you don't do that stuff right, well, you're going to get to that end of the lease and you're going to have a nasty surprise, which is how much
Yeah.
money you owe, like leasing a car and putting extra miles
No.
on it and turning it in. And we saw that with folks, right? We would come in and take over a building and put stuff in, and they would owe tremendous amount on that stuff. So there's just, it's like, man, like most topics, you can start to peel the onion on this thing, and you need it's what I appreciate about our relationship. You need a partner who knows it inside out and backwards and is going to protect you at every step in the way, right? I mean, we just talked about you guys and how you help us at end of life. There's the beginning of life. There's how you set up that lease and how you structure it and how you put the hours together with it. And then we've already sort of talked about in the middle, right? Just with the maintenance, and we didn't get into that too much, but I mean, the guaranteed maintenance that we have is a beautiful thing. It allows me to put together a model, a cost model with a client that we can depend on. I'm
Yep.
going to go set up a 5-year contract with that client. They don't want surprises on forklift equipment maintenance. So if we be able to set up a flat line is a beautiful thing for me, especially if I'm in a fixed variable arrangement. It's very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And you, and talking about surprises in a 3PL environment, or just business, you don't want that end of lease or those those turn in penalties, because you've got no one to charge that back to. You've got to
Right.
eat it.
Yeah.
And so, no, I agree that like standardized pricing across the network, and that's something we've really strived to do, is for you to be able to scale your business knowing that you've got a constant in the MHE space. And you keeping up with the competitive nature of the 3PL world, you can depend on your MHE provider and know that that MHE provider is also progressing with new technologies, new maintenance practices. And again, we're not being biased to any brand or make or model or anything like that, but knowing that productivity is, again, and cost is key to winning deals for you. And so that's what's going to be center of our focus as well.
Well, I know, what I know we're going to run out of time here, but I'm just going to say I just appreciate the fact that I've got a number to call, and I got one provider that I can lean on who knows it all, who can take care of the headaches, who can kind of work through the politics, who helps me diversify my fleet in the best possible way for reliability and total cost. And like I said, I don't know, man. It's just if we keep talking, I'll keep thinking of other stories, right, that come to my
No,
mind
no.
about the way you guys have helped us and saved us and made us better along the way. So I really appreciate the partnership and all the value that your team has added to the distribution network over the years.
No, same here, David. And it's been really a learning experience together over the past 14 years on this journey. I mean, without your operations and you scaling up, we would have never been able to learn. So really, we've learned in real time, and it's an education that we couldn't have gotten anywhere else. So it's been great to kind of have that with our sister company. So appreciate your time today. Great conversations, and continue holding your fleet management company accountable for sure.
I'll do it, man. It's great to see you. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Have a good one.